The sun shone brightly over the bustling city of New York. People hurried through the streets, unaware of the danger that loomed above them. In a small lab filled with screens and strange devices, Dr. Emily Carter worked late into the night. She was a brilliant scientist, known for her research in space communications. That evening, she stumbled upon something alarming, a signal from deep space. As she analyzed the signal, her heart raced. It was a warning from an alien source, one she had never encountered before. The message echoed in her mind. The Galactic Empire is coming. Prepare for an invasion. She felt a chill run down her spine. The Galactic Empire was known for its ruthless conquests across the galaxy. They viewed other species as weak and unworthy. Earth was now in their sights. Dr. Emily knew she had to act fast. She rushed to her communication console and tried to contact the world leaders, but their lines were busy with mundane chatter. People were discussing the weather, the latest sports scores, and celebrity gossip. Nobody seemed to care about the danger approaching from the stars. Frustrated but determined, she decided to take matters into her own hands. With a deep breath, she activated the emergency broadcast system. The room filled with bright lights and the buzzing sound of machinery. Dr. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she spoke into the microphone. "This is Dr. Emily Carter. I have a vital message for all of humanity. The Galactic Empire is coming to invade Earth. We must prepare!" Her voice echoed across the airwaves, reaching millions. People paused, surprised by the urgency in her tone. In living rooms, on street corners, and in cafes, eyes turned to screens. But reactions varied. Some people believed her, their expressions shifting from confusion to fear. Others scoffed, dismissing her as a conspiracy theorist. "Another crazy scientist," they whispered. As the hours passed, the tension in the air grew thicker. News outlets picked up her broadcast, but many treated it as a joke. The more they laughed, the more worried Dr. Emily became. She watched the screens as she tried to convince others of the threat. "This is not a joke. The Empire will not show mercy," she shouted at the screen, her frustration mounting. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, General Zarek of the Galactic Empire listened to the broadcast with great interest. He was a cold and calculating leader, known for his ruthlessness in battle. "Humans," he muttered to himself, "they think they can resist. How amusing." He ordered his fleet to prepare for the invasion, confident that their advanced technology would crush the so-called defenders of Earth. Back on Earth, the clock ticked away. Dr. Emily gathered a small team of scientists and military officials who believed her warning. They began to make plans to prepare for the worst. "We need to find a way to defend ourselves," she urged. "We can't rely on others to protect us. We must be ready to fight back." Just then, a loud rumble shook the ground beneath them. The lights flickered and the windows rattled. People on the streets looked up in shock as massive ships descended from the sky, blocking out the sun. They were dark, ominous shapes, unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Dr. Emily and her team rushed to the roof of their building. They stared in disbelief at the sight above them. "They're here!" she shouted. Panic erupted below as people began to scream and run in every direction. Cars crashed and chaos reigned in the streets. As the ships positioned themselves in the sky, Dr. Emily knew that her warning had come too late. The Galactic Empire had arrived and Earth was unprepared. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and they would need every ounce of courage to face the impending storm. In that moment, she made a vow to herself and her team. "We will not go down without a fight. We will show them that humanity is not as weak as they think." Little did she know, the struggle ahead would change the fate of Earth forever. The sky darkened as the massive ships of the Galactic Empire loomed above Earth. Dr. Emily Carter stood on the rooftop, her heart racing as she watched the chaos unfold below. People screamed and ran, unsure of what to do. Panic filled the streets as the reality of the invasion sank in. In the heart of the city, the sound of sirens blared. Emergency vehicles rushed to and fro, trying to restore order. The air was thick with fear. But Dr. Emily knew they had to act quickly. "We need to communicate with them," she shouted to her team. "If we can send a message, maybe we can buy some time." Her team quickly set to work. They gathered around their equipment, desperate to find a way to contact the alien invaders. As they worked, the ships began to hover lower, revealing their dark, armored hulls. Small vessels detached from the larger ships, zooming down towards the city. They looked like birds of prey, ready to strike. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed across the city. "People of Earth! This is General Zarek of the Galactic Empire. Your planet is now under our control. Resist and you will be destroyed!" The voice boomed from the ships, sending chills down the spines of everyone who heard it. Dr. Emily's team huddled together, fear evident on their faces. "What should we do?" a young technician named Sam asked, his voice shaking. "We can't just give up," Dr. Emily replied, her determination shining through. "We need to show them we are not afraid. We need to fight back." While the team worked, the general's forces began to deploy. Soldiers in sleek silver armor emerged from the small ships, their weapons glinting ominously in the fading light. They moved swiftly, establishing a perimeter and forcing people to flee. Sarah Thompson, a military veteran, watched from a nearby rooftop. She had seen many battles, but nothing like this. She quickly grabbed her old radio and contacted the nearby police and military units. "We need to organize! We can't let them take our city without a fight." With Sarah's leadership, a small group of brave citizens gathered. They armed themselves with whatever they could find: baseball bats, makeshift shields, and a few firearms. Sarah felt a spark of hope as she looked into the eyes of her new allies. They were scared, but they were ready to stand together. As they prepared to confront the invaders, Dr. Emily and her team finally managed to send a message through the Empire's communication system. "We are not your enemies. We only want peace." The Empire's response was swift. "You are too weak to understand. Surrender now or face the consequences." The message echoed back, filled with arrogance and disdain. Sarah, fueled by anger, led her group down into the streets. "Let's show them what we're made of!" she yelled, charging toward the nearest group of armored soldiers. The citizens followed her, their fear transforming into courage. The first clash was intense. Sarah swung her bat at an approaching soldier, knocking him off balance. The soldier quickly regained his footing, firing his weapon at the ground. The blast sent debris flying, causing chaos among the citizens. They fought bravely, using their surroundings to their advantage. Dr. Emily watched from the rooftop, her heart pounding. She knew they had to do something more than just fight. "We need to find a way to disable their technology," she shouted to her team. They raced back to their equipment, searching for any weaknesses in the Empire's systems. While the battle raged below, Dr. Emily's team made a shocking discovery. They found a signal that could disrupt the Empire's communication. "If we can get this out to the field, we can turn the tide," she exclaimed, hope returning to her voice. As they worked to amplify the signal, Sarah and her team continued to push back against the invaders. With each moment, the people of Earth fought with the spirit of their ancestors, showing the Empire that they would not go down easily. Just then, a loud explosion echoed through the streets. A piece of the Empire's ship had fallen, creating a massive cloud of smoke. For a moment, both sides paused, surprised by the sudden turn of events. This was only the beginning of a battle that would change everything. In that moment of silence, Dr. Emily knew they had to seize the opportunity. "Now," she shouted, hoping to send the signal that could turn the tide. The fight for Earth was far from over, and the struggle for survival had only just begun. The city lay in chaos as the battle for Earth erupted. General Zarek watched from his flagship, his cold eyes scanning the streets below. The humans were putting up a fight, but he found their efforts amusing. "They think they can resist," he sneered, shaking his head. "Prepare the ground troops for full engagement." Meanwhile, on the streets, Sarah and her group of brave citizens stood their ground. They had fought hard, pushing back against the Empire's soldiers, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. As the armored troops advanced, Sarah felt the weight of fear creeping in. "Stay strong! We can do this!" she shouted, raising her bat high. The determination in her voice rallied her team. Dr. Emily and her team were working frantically on the rooftop. They had found a way to disrupt the Empire's communication systems, but it would take time to set up. "We need to buy ourselves a few more minutes," she urged, glancing out at the chaos. The sounds of blaster fire and explosions echoed in the air, reminding her of the stakes. Down below, the Empire's soldiers advanced with precision. Their silver armor gleamed in the sunlight, making them look almost like robots. They moved in formation, weapons at the ready, striking fear into the hearts of the civilians. But Sarah refused to back down. "We need to create a distraction," she called out. "We can't let them push us back. Follow me." With that, she led a small group down an alley, searching for a way to flank the enemy. They ran past crumbling buildings and shattered glass, adrenaline coursing through their veins. As they rounded a corner, Sarah spotted a group of Empire soldiers. She nodded to her team. "On three! 1, 2, 3!" They charged forward, surprising the soldiers. With makeshift weapons in hand, they swung and struck, causing confusion among the enemy ranks. The fight was brutal. Blaster bolts whizzed past them, and explosions rocked the ground. But the humans fought fiercely, driven by the desire to protect their home. They ducked and dodged, using every ounce of strength they had. Sarah tackled a soldier, bringing him down and grabbing his weapon. "We can use their own tech against them," she shouted, feeling a surge of confidence. Back on the rooftop, Dr. Emily's team finally finished setting up their signal device. "We're ready," she yelled. With a deep breath, she pressed the button to broadcast the disruptor signal. A pulse of energy radiated through the air, reaching the Empire's communication network. "It's working!" she exclaimed, watching as the soldiers below suddenly paused, confusion spreading through their ranks. General Zarek felt the disruption immediately. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice filled with anger. His officers scrambled to figure out the source of the interference. "Send out the order. Find and destroy the signal," he ordered, his patience wearing thin. With the Empire's communication in chaos, the humans saw their chance. Sarah rallied her team. "Now's our moment. Let's push forward." They surged into the fray, taking advantage of the confusion among the enemy soldiers. Sarah led the charge, firing the blaster she had taken from the fallen soldier. The weapon was heavy, but she felt empowered. "We can do this!" she shouted as she fired again, hitting another soldier. Her team followed her lead, fighting with newfound energy. As the battle raged, Dr. Emily continued to monitor the situation from above. She watched as the Empire's soldiers stumbled, their coordination faltering. "This is our chance to turn the tide," she said, her heart racing with excitement. Down on the streets, the humans pushed the Empire back, slowly gaining ground. The tide of the battle shifted, and the soldiers began to retreat. "They're falling back!" Sarah exclaimed, disbelief mixing with hope. "Keep pressing forward! We can win this!" But just as victory seemed possible, General Zarek unleashed a counterattack. He activated a hidden weapon on his flagship, and a massive energy blast fired down towards the city. The blast struck the ground with a deafening roar, sending shockwaves through the streets. Buildings crumbled, and a cloud of dust and debris filled the air. The sudden explosion knocked many off their feet. "Get up! We can't let this stop us!" Sarah yelled, struggling to rise. Her vision blurred from the shock, but she pushed herself to her feet. The fight was not over yet. Dr. Emily saw the blast on her screens, her heart sinking. "We need to stabilize the signal," she cried, her fingers flying over the controls. "If we can hold the disruption, we can weaken their forces even more." The battle was fierce, but the humans refused to give up. They fought through the chaos, fueled by hope and the desire to protect their world. Each soldier they faced only strengthened their resolve. As the dust settled and the echoes of the blast faded, they prepared for the next phase of their fight. The battle for Earth had truly begun, and the humans were determined to show the Galactic Empire that they would not go down without a fight. The stakes had never been higher, and every moment mattered in this struggle for survival. The dust settled in the streets of the city, leaving destruction in its wake. The explosion from General Zarek's weapon had caused panic, but it also ignited a fire within the hearts of the humans. Sarah shook her head to clear it, her vision slowly returning to normal. Around her, her friends were getting back on their feet, their faces a mix of determination and fear. "We can't let this stop us!" Sarah shouted, her voice ringing out above the noise. "We need to regroup and push back!" The weight of the situation pressed down on her, but she refused to show any sign of weakness. Her friends looked at her, their eyes filled with hope, ready to follow her lead. On the rooftop, Dr. Emily was busy adjusting the signal disruptor. "If we can just hold on a little longer," she muttered, sweat beading on her forehead. The Empire's forces were regrouping, and she knew they needed a plan. "We need to create a more powerful signal to confuse their systems completely." Suddenly, one of her team members yelled, "Look! They're moving again!" Emily turned just in time to see the Empire's troops reorganizing, their silver armor glinting ominously in the sunlight. "They're preparing for another attack," she realized, her heart racing. Meanwhile, below, Sarah and her team rushed toward the remnants of a nearby convenience store. "We can use this as a stronghold," she suggested, pointing to the debris. They quickly set up makeshift barricades using whatever they could find: wooden pallets, shelves, and metal pipes. "We need to create a distraction," Sarah said, thinking quickly. "If we can draw some of their attention away, we might create an opening for Dr. Emily to amplify the disruptor." One of her teammates, a young man named Jake, nodded eagerly. "I can set off some fireworks. It'll create noise and light, and they'll think we're attacking from another angle." "Great idea," Sarah replied, feeling the adrenaline surge through her. "Just be careful, Jake. We can't afford to lose anyone now." Jake quickly gathered supplies while Sarah coordinated with the rest of the team. They worked together, setting up traps and preparing their defenses. The atmosphere was tense but filled with purpose. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, they felt a renewed sense of hope. Up on the rooftop, Emily continued her work. "I need more power," she said, staring at the devices. She glanced over at the building across the street where an old generator sat. "If I can get that running, I might be able to boost the signal." Two of her team members volunteered to go. "We'll cover you," one said, and they quickly moved out, guns ready. Emily watched, anxiety twisting in her stomach as they dashed across the open space. Back at the makeshift stronghold, Sarah could see the Empire soldiers advancing. "Get ready, everyone!" she shouted, gripping her blaster tightly. The tension was palpable as they awaited the first shots to be fired. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from Jake's direction. Fireworks shot up into the sky, bursting into vibrant colors. "Now!" Sarah yelled, and they launched their attack, firing into the approaching troops. The Empire soldiers halted, confused by the sudden explosions and bright lights. Many turned to look at the fireworks, momentarily distracted. "It's working!" Sarah cheered. Dr. Emily's team reached the generator, and the sound of the engine roared to life. "We did it!" one of them yelled as they returned to the rooftop. "We can boost the disruptor now." Back at the stronghold, the humans pressed their advantage. Sarah and her team fought bravely, their makeshift defenses holding strong against the Empire's initial assault. The soldiers seemed to be faltering, their confidence shaken by the unexpected resistance. On the rooftop, Emily quickly connected the generator to the disruptor. "This should give us the power we need," she exclaimed, her heart pounding. With a deep breath, she activated the device, sending out a stronger disruptor signal. The Empire soldiers below began to stagger as their communication systems flickered. "What is happening?" General Zarek growled, frustration evident in his voice. "Get those signals back online!" But the humans didn't stop. Sarah's voice rose above the chaos. "Keep pushing! They're losing control!" The battle raged on, but the tide was turning. The humans fought harder, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they were gaining ground. One by one, Empire soldiers began to retreat, confusion spreading among their ranks. As the sky darkened, lit only by the fireworks and explosions, Sarah felt a surge of hope. "We can win this!" she yelled, and her team rallied around her, pushing back with newfound strength. The humans had turned the tide, proving that they would not back down. They were fighting for their home, and this battle was just the beginning. The Galactic Empire was about to learn that underestimating humanity was their biggest mistake. The battle had ended, but the echoes of gunfire and explosions still rang in the air. As dawn broke over the city, a soft light illuminated the destruction left behind. Buildings lay in ruins, and the streets were littered with debris. The smell of smoke and burnt metal hung thick in the air. Sarah stood with her team, surveying the damage. They were exhausted, but there was a sense of triumph in their hearts. They had fought hard and successfully pushed back the Galactic Empire. "We did it!" she exclaimed, turning to her friends. "We actually did it!" Around them, the other members of the team nodded, some grinning while others looked solemn as they took in the destruction. They were grateful to be alive, but the cost of their victory weighed heavily on their minds. Many of their friends had fought bravely, but not all had made it through the night. "We need to check on everyone," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Make sure everyone is okay." As they moved through the wreckage, they helped those who were injured. Sarah's heart sank as she spotted a familiar face among the wounded. It was Jake, lying on the ground, his arm bleeding. "Oh no, Jake!" She rushed to his side. He managed a weak smile. "I'm okay, just a scratch," he said, trying to reassure her. But Sarah could see the pain in his eyes. They bandaged his arm, and the team helped him to his feet. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily worked on repairing the disruptor. "We need to send a message to the Galactic Empire," she said, her brow furrowed with determination. "They need to know they can't treat us like this." "What should we say?" one of her teammates asked. "We tell them that we are not afraid," Emily replied firmly. "And we warn them if they come back they will face us again." With a plan in place, Emily connected the disruptor to their communication system. They worked tirelessly, sending out a signal that would reach the Empire's fleet in orbit. As the message traveled across the stars, Sarah and her team gathered around, their hearts pounding. "This is it," Sarah said, glancing at her friends. "We're sending a message to the whole galaxy." Finally, the moment arrived. Emily pressed a button, and the message began to transmit. The screen flickered to life, showing a clear image of Sarah flanked by her team. "This is Sarah Jones," she said, her voice steady. "We are the people of Earth. We have fought back against the Galactic Empire, and we will continue to fight if you try to invade us again." The screen showed images of the battle, the destruction, and the resolve of the humans. "We will not be slaves. We will not back down. If you come for us again, you will meet the full strength of humanity." When the transmission ended, a heavy silence filled the room. Then slowly the group began to cheer. "They'll hear us," one shouted, while another clapped Sarah on the back. But as the excitement faded, a sense of uncertainty crept in. "What if they don't listen?" Jake asked quietly. "What if they come back even stronger?" Sarah looked around at her friends. She could see the fear in their eyes. "If they do, we'll be ready," she said confidently. "We've shown them what we can do. They won't take us lightly again." Days passed, and life began to return to normal. The people of Earth rebuilt their city, working together to restore what had been lost. The sense of community grew stronger as everyone came together to support one another. Meanwhile, the Galactic Empire was reeling from the unexpected defeat. Their leaders were furious and confused. How could a small planet like Earth resist them? They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would haunt them for years to come. News of the battle spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Other civilizations began to take notice. The humans of Earth were no longer seen as weak and insignificant. Instead, they had proven themselves as fierce warriors willing to defend their home. Sarah and her friends watched as ships began to appear in the skies, not as invaders but as allies. Other worlds had heard the message, and they were ready to stand with Earth against any future threats. "We're not alone anymore," Sarah said, her heart swelling with pride. "Together we can face anything." The aftermath of the battle had forged new alliances and strengthened humanity's resolve. Earth was ready to face the stars, no longer afraid of the Galactic Empire or any other threat. They would fight for their freedom and send a message to the galaxy: "We are humanity. We are strong, and we will never give up."